Hello and welcome everyone to this webinar hosted by H2O.ai and Qintess. Today we are going to talk about how to elevate your AI projects from POC to production. My name is Ivan and I am on the marketing team here at H2O.ai. I would love to start off by introducing our speakers today. Mark Bakker is one of our regional leads here at H2O.ai, and Ed Sant'Anna is the Digital Experience Director for EMEA at Qintess. And today they will be presenting this session together. Before I hand it over to them, I would like to go over the following housekeeping items. If you have any questions, please type them into the Q&A box and we will take some time at the end of the session to answer them. And this session today is being recorded. A copy of the recording will be available after the presentation is over. Now I would like to hand it over to Ed.
Thank you so much, Ivan. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, depending where you are in the world joining us today. As Ivan said, I'm Ed Sant'Anna, I work for Qintess. Qintess is a global digital transformation company. We've been an H2O partner in Latin America for a while, recently extended the partnership to Europe. Really excited to be here in this webinar. We'll talk a little bit more about Qintess later on. But for now, let's just have a look at what we're going to cover in this short webinar. So elevating your AI projects from proof of concept to production. What do we mean by that? It's mainly because many organizations are struggling to take their AI projects to production. We've noticed that over the years, and it's usually not because of technical capabilities. It's really more about that lack of alignment to the business requirements. Maybe a requirement for a framework to have the right tools like H2O and also have the right people. So what we've done is we've created a package that incorporates all of that, including governance, including best practices, which we'll show to you by the end of the session. Okay, so it will be a short webinar, maybe about 20, 25 minutes long, and we can have some time for Q&A as well. So if we start by talking about Netflix, we all know and love them. We know that they have a recommendation engine. What you may not know is that they've actually created a competition a few years ago to try and find the right algorithm for that. So many data scientists were asked around the globe. Of course, as we know, they have a big audience. They wanted to provide the right content based on, the history of series and movies that that particular user had already seen. A group has won, a group of data scientists won that competition. It was a super high accuracy model. The challenge is the model was too big. It was a bit clumsy. It was difficult to implement in their environment. So, this is a very common problem where, you end up having a very good technical team working on it, but it doesn't go beyond the proof of concept. And the majority of problems are on the actual implementation. So that's the sort of thing we're going to be talking about today. Okay, so if even Netflix had that sort of problems, don't worry, we are all in good company. But again, we're here to help you take that from that lab, if I put it that way, into actual business use. Okay, so if we just have a quick refresher of the possibilities of AI, as you know, and with H2O, we can use it in a wide variety of use cases. AI, as we know, is unlocking potential for every organization. They're using AI machine learning technology to inform business decisions, predict potential issues, provide more efficiency, customize customer experience. So one of the examples was here. So instead of having mass advertisement to everyone, all adverts looking the same, you can actually have real-time and individualized advertisement in the case of Netflix and really all of the on-demand video providers out there. Same for healthcare industry. You can personalize your healthcare based on your illness, based on your individual needs, etc. So really, it's all about that. It's all about taking it from reactive to proactive as much as we can. And those are the possibilities that I know you all love. But really the key question, Mark, what are the challenges then with implementing AI?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Ed. So some of the challenges companies are facing, or actually challenges, I think AI is something majority of the organizations are talking about, or actually already tried the first steps into majority of the time into the right direction. But what we're noticing is AI, it's not magic. It's really hard to move from a reactive organization, because that's what majority of the organizations with BI and dashboarding are, moving into a proactive manner. That means change in traditional business, change really from an organizational perspective, because you need to get your new, you have to get new KPIs. So what does that mean for organizations, and what did we learn for the past 10, maybe already 15 years in the hype cycle of AI? So one of the challenges of deploying AI is time, getting to results faster, getting to value within your organization faster. It's hard to develop an AI algorithm, to evaluate the AI algorithm if it's still correct, to implement it within the organization, within the business audience, explaining the business audience that how to use it, and then getting real value out of it. And also, if the algorithm needs to be retrained, putting it back into the life cycle. We're going to talk about that later on. So time, getting to results faster is big challenge for organizations, because AI needs to deliver, of course. Next one is all about trust, and it's a big pain point for organizations. That's all about explanation of the AI. Without trust, why to use AI within your organization? Your business organization, or the people who need to understand what kind of value you can gain from AI, needs to trust the results. They need to understand the results. Without trust, you can't get any value. That's one of the challenges, because for many people, AI is still that magic, is still some vehicle without even knowing how it works. It gets results, and sometimes they're not really happy with it. And even an extra movies like The Matrix or Terminator make it also a little bit also that magic part of it. The third one, time, trust, is talent. And then we talk about that AI is a team sport, and there's a big technical skills gap still going on, because you need to get the right people in the organization. You need different skill sets to work together productively, enabling that teamwork for somebody who is coding your data science work, or somebody who is using a graphical user interface, or somebody who understands the domain you are developing a model for, somebody who understands that the results are not always correct, and that the model should be retrained. All those steps within an organization, there's a big technical skills gap still going on, but we're moving into the right direction with tools like H2O, moving into an age where it's easier to develop AI and to maintain the AI, or to overcome the talent skill gap. The adaptation, that is still also one a big challenge within organizations, has all to do with time, trust, talent. But still, what I really wanted to show over here is AI is not magic. It's hard, it's mathematics, it's an organizational challenge for organizations. Let me move to the next slide. Let's move a little bit deeper into the theory. This is the machine learning lifecycle. And over here, you can also see already the organizational challenges organizations facing. It all starts with defining the business challenge. So that's at the top of the screen. Definition is all about, okay, what kind of a problem do we want to overcome? What kind of a model are we going to use for prediction? Are we going to predict fraud? And what are we going to do with such a fraud detection model? Once you've defined the problem or the challenge you have as an organization, you have to move into data. So as a business user, you've defined the challenge, then you have to talk with the people dealing with data. Is there data? How does the data look like? Is the data a good snapshot of a real situation? Do we need the data in batch? Do we need it real time? Do we need it? Is it governed? Stuff like that. So it's a different type of the organization. Once the data is there, then you move into the data science work, or you move from a data engineer to the data scientist work. But that's all about model building. And model building, again, like I just mentioned, that is not magic. It's all about modeling the real world. So actually, we asked mathematics and the computer to model the real world based on all the inputs we have for such a certain situation. That model building part, that's important that you have a data scientist who understands coding, who understands maybe the graphical user interfaces that have been developed nowadays to develop models, but also understands the domain, that understands the dangers of data science if you model the wrong things. Once you've developed a model, you tried out several models, and then you move into next step, model finalization. You're going to start with validation. You need to start with governance around such a model. You need to understand what's a wrong model, what's not a wrong model. So then you're moving from the data science department into the department who needs to check if the model fits. Majority of the time, that's a business user. Or if you want to deploy it within your organization, you're talking with your IT organization, because your IT is going to check for help. And then once the model is finalized, you move into model execution, and then you just put it within the organization, and then IT takes over. Then it's in production. Then that is the moment that it should work automatically. But then still you need to do checks and balances. You need to manage your model on help, on governance, on etc. If it doesn't work, you're back at definition again. I wanted to use a slide really to show that data science is not a data scientist problem. It is an organizational problem, and you're talking with every part of the organization. And I think that's also the part that's really hard. Except for organizational challenges, once the model is there, I added this also to really emphasize that AI is also a technology play. So we're talking about volumes of data. We're talking about development of your AI algorithm. We're talking about one of the most and fastest growing areas regarding new technologies, innovations, etc. We're talking about IT. We're talking about hardware, cloud situations, or on premises. We're talking about databases. So security is an important one. So not only organizational challenges is a problem, it's also the technology. Next slide. What we've noticed within our organizations, within Qintess and within H2O, there's a big focus. This is a Google paper, by the way. There's a big focus on machine learning code. So if you are talking to organizations, or if you're going to meetups, or if you try to find blog posts on the internet, for example, majority of the time, the topic is what code do you need to develop a machine learning or AI model? So that's specifically this. But once you're moving into the organizational challenges or the technology challenges we just talked about, it's actually a way bigger challenge you're facing. We're talking not only about the machine learning code. We're talking about full operationalized system where and that system needs to develop new money for you, extra value, or cost reduction, for example. And these are the building blocks you have to take into account if you're talking about data science. So it's not only the code, it's everything else, and that's way more important, way more interesting regarding success. Still, of course, the machine learning algorithm or the machine learning code, that is in the heart of the building blocks, but everything around it that makes the real value within your organization. I just wanted to showcase one of the use cases we did within AT&T. And this is a great use case to show that this started really small with some machine learning codes I just talked about, a fraud model, and actually a small team was working on this fraud model within AT&T. And actually, in the first year, the only thing they did was developing rules. So, what is fraud? How does fraud look like? How does somebody who is committing fraud? What are the characteristics of that? Using rules only, as you can see in the graph, resulted in quite some fraud events. So actually the blue line, you can see quite some fraud events still going on during time. In this project where we moved into a small data science team into the introduction of automated machine learning with H2O, where a bigger group of people was able to develop the AI and machine learning algorithms to detect fraud. Biggest advantage was that those people who were not always skilled in the data science code were able to develop or use their domain knowledge in the backend to develop those models. And as you can see, only they've used 5 models, the purple line, and you can see that the fraudulent events went down. So we tried to overcome the skills gap by introducing automated machine learning over here. We were able to develop more machine learning algorithms in smaller amount of time. That's again the time challenge. So time, talent, and we were able to get trust because deploying those algorithms within the organization, within AT&T, seeing that fraudulent events decreased, that develop trust within the organization. Right now, we're in the next years. Right now, there are 20 plus models. And as you can see, we reduced the fraud detection almost with fraud. We would reduce it with almost 80%. It's a real-time deployment. A big group of people is able to develop and think along with the development of the fraud detection algorithms, and it really helps because you can imagine what kind of a dollar value is attached to 80% reduction in fraud within that organization only, really by overcoming the 3 challenges: time, trust, and talent. Oh, next slide. Back to you, Ed. You're on mute.
Much. Yeah, sorry, thank you very much. Can you still see the screen? Because I think I've been changing things a little bit. Hopefully you can.
Yeah, it's okay.
Right, so excellent. So where do we start? Hang on, I think I had a little bit of a problem here with the screen. Just give me a moment. And we're back. Right, so really from everything we've been talking about, it's really all about having...
I'm sorry, I think you're in presenter mode.
Okay, just 1 second then. Let's see what we can do to fix this.
Yes, all good now.
That's all perfect, excellent. All right, so really for us, and that's a recurring theme here, it's all about having the holistic approach to AI. So really, treating it as a strategic change management initiative is critical. Bringing the business stakeholders with you, because we've seen so many times teams doing things in isolation. So it's really important to bring, that cross-functional team together. Make sure you have the right management of expectations across the whole business. Again, it's a team sport, as Mark was talking about. Then getting the right use cases to begin with. Sometimes you start with something that is relatively easy easy to start. And that was certainly the case for AT&T, and then you improve it as you go. And then you really plan and manage that investment. So again, there is no other way really, guys. We can't stress this enough that we need to have the people who have the business problem at the center of everything. So the people who have the domain specific business problem are there, they're involved on a regular basis. Then we bring, the data through it. We bring the data science team, the IT side of things, sales, everyone in the organization, to then think about how to deploy and execute, right? And this is what we are now bringing together here. So if I, for a moment, just give you a little bit more about Qintess as an H2O partner. So as I said, we are a global technology company. We're headquartered in Brazil. Over 3,000 people, of which 2,000 are technical experts, over 2,000 active customers as well, and with offices all over the globe. I myself am based in our EMEA headquarter here in London. Really innovative company. We've been helping organizations across the globe with these sort of challenges, business challenges in particular, and using technology to solve them. So what we've done is we are bringing a design-driven approach to data analytics, right? So we are introducing something that we call the AI PoC. It's really to take those initiatives forward and quickly within a 3 months period. So within our team at Qintess, we have over 100 data scientists, engineers, analysts, people who have been working with businesses for many years now, where we've clearly noticed that we can get it, up to 50% faster in terms of time to market, by bringing the knowledge, bringing the experience, bringing the tool, as in H2O driverless or AI cloud, and the highly skilled team to deploy the solutions on behalf of our customers. What we also have is we use something we call our Qintess Analytics Studio framework, which is the design-centric one that I mentioned, and I'll discuss that in a bit of details later. What it also brings is, as part of that package, as Mark was saying, we have trust, speed, and talent. So we also, as part of the package, we're bringing a data scientist from our team to work with your team, with your data science team, to take things forward, right? So the way it works is you have 4 main aspects. So number 1 is our data scientists will work with your team to provide training on H2O, how to work, what are we going to leverage it for, et cetera, et cetera. We'll also run our Analytics Studio workshop, which is our design thinking session. We'll bring again the business stakeholders to make sure we understand their problems. That's critical, recurring theme throughout the webinar. And then really identify which use cases are really critical for the business. We'll then have an exec meeting. Again, extremely important. We mentioned managing expectations, managing your stakeholders. We make sure that we have approval from execs of the use case that was selected. Again, we can get them to help us identify which ones are really important as well, right? So we have that session with them, and then again, including our teams, we'll work with you, work with the H2O tools to make sure we get those machine learning models provided. We work across your different teams as well in IT, etc., to make sure we have the delivery. And again, we can do that, by selecting the right use cases. We can do those within the 3 months period. Okay. And as I said, it's really all about understanding your strategy, building a strategy with you, a deep understanding of the business, and we have experience across many different industry sectors. With our Analytics Studio at the core of it, where we will understand who's the user, understand the business context, understand the data scenarios. And when we say it's data design centric, it's really based on design thinking, right? Where you may already be familiar with. So we have these 3 main chunks, I'd say, of work, where we start with the empathize and define, where we define strategic challenges of the organization, understand it from a people and human-centric perspective. And what we've done is, we use that concept and then apply into data as well. So that's where we look at things like your organization and governance, your data architecture, Then we go into discovering and defining the models, where we have, the methods, the algorithms, the insights, etc., where we maybe look at, data acquisition, do a little bit of a business deep dive. And then, of course, we go for prototype and deployment, right, where we start looking at the tangible solutions to meet and indeed exceed the end user expectations. Okay, so to summarize then, we're introducing to you AI Pulse, where you get the tool required, i.e. you get, your H2O.ai driverless licenses. You get a data scientist, i.e. your talent, so from Qintess, who comes in and helps your team develop. You get the training on the tools, and you also have the right framework, governance, and approach to make sure you have the right business-centric mindset across the entire project. Okay, and again, we are focusing on a 3-month duration, because we want to take this from proof of concept to production at speed, as we said and promised at the beginning of the webinar. Okay, so that's all we wanted to talk to you today. Again, if you need anything from us, if you have any questions, please let us know. We have our contacts in there as well. Ivan, do we have any questions online from the audience?
Yes, yeah, sure. Thanks, Ed and Mark, for the presentation. Now we'll go to questions. So if you have any questions, please use the Q&A tab or the chat function. And we already received a few. So the first one is, you mentioned AI Pulse. Where can you deliver that technology?
Right, excellent. So where can we deliver? As you said, we are a global technology company. We have our teams and operations in Brazil, and really we are opening it up to be delivered anywhere across the European region. Really, it can be anywhere, but we're focusing on Europe at the moment. So really, just let us know. All the main geographies are certainly within our capability to deliver.
Great, thanks. Another question came in. Do I need to have an existing large data science team to leverage AI Pulse?
Very good one. So no, absolutely not. So we've worked with small teams, large teams, also with customers who are still at the start of their data science journey. So maybe they don't have a team. No problem at all. Like we said, we are bringing in the talent as well, right? So if you do need the data scientists, engineers, analysts, we will provide those to you as well. So by all means, get in touch and we can, kickstart your AI journey.
Okay, thanks. I just see one question left. So if you have any questions, everyone, please send them to the Q&A box or the chat box. And the last question I see here is, how much does it cost to implement that technology?
Excellent. Very good one. So again, it will depend on your requirements, right? So we do have this package solution, which, by the way, is very cost effective, considering our operations globally and delivery from Latin America. It will certainly depend on your requirements. As we said earlier, some of you may already have a team, some of you may require extra. So again, just get in touch with us and then we'll get the right pricing done for you very quickly.
Great, thanks. I see another question that just came in. Where would the models be running? Would they be running on the Qintess cloud or in the cloud of the customer?
So again, that's open, and Mark, help me here if you can. This is really based on the H2O framework and architecture, so it's quite flexible, isn't it, Mark?
Yeah. So that really depends how you implement that. So if you talk about training the models, that could be your own VPC, your own cloud, your own infrastructure on premises, could be Qintess cloud. Depends on how you would like to manage it. Deployment of a model, that could be a little package with a scorecode that is doing actually all the work that you did in training the model. Deploying that model, that's also up to you. If you would like to deploy a model, the scorecode within your application, own application, that is possible. If you would like to deploy the code within your database, we have possibilities for that, for in database scoring. If you would like to deploy the code into a management environment for all your models, because you have several models, then H2O has also a solution called ModelOps. With H2O ModelOps, it's possible to monitor your models, store your models, to define rules, to deploy real time, really from focusing of monitoring perspective. So long story short, really up to you. First step we're always trying to start with is, of course, the training of the model. But also really from architecture perspective, what are the questions of the person who wants to use it, developing an architecture around that, and then try to get most value out of that architecture, training of the models and deployment as possible. I hope this helps.
Great, thanks, Mark. And I see another question. Do you usually engage with customers that already have a mature data science team and mostly need help with the design thinking part?
Yeah, we do a lot of that. It really depends. There's a bit of a mix, but I think that's the most common scenario. Customers have already started deploying. They know what to do technically, but they may be struggling a little bit with getting the process, the framework, and just accelerating it. So yeah, that's very common. If you do have that scenario, let us know, and we can certainly help. If it's only with design thinking part, or that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, and from a software perspective, H2O is really developed not only for automated machine learning within H2O. Majority of people always think that is for people who just started recently with data science or are not able to do data science. What we see in our customer base is that also advanced data scientists moving into automation, really to focus on the most important part, getting the best model out of the data. Automation can help with that. Automation can really help with getting more models done in smaller amount of time. So you don't need a mature data science team. You can start with an immature data science team. What we see is it is an evolution of data scientists who just started, but also the advanced data scientists with end goal getting more models done in a smaller amount of time with the highest accuracy as possible.
Great, thanks, Mark. There is another question for you, Mark. It's about the difference between H2O and H2O driverless AI, so the open source versus the commercial platform.
Yeah, it are two entirely different products. Driverless AI is really focusing on enterprises, from security perspective to graphical user interface, so that the bigger group of people can use it, to a wide range of explainability algorithms that you really can use for understanding. But last but not least, also governance. So we're developing model governance reports that you understand what happened in the background, so that you can deploy your important algorithms within important processes. The H2O, the H2O3, our open source, that's coding. So what we provide over there is a vehicle where you can develop machine learning algorithms. We have some capabilities for automated machine learning algorithms, but everything around that you still have to build. So it's not ready yet to fully deploy within enterprises. That's something you should do yourself. So it really depends what your problem is. What we see is that driverless AI is more the enterprise solution, where open source or H2O or H2O3 is being used majority of the time for R&D challenges to understand what is in the data, how does it look like, and then afterwards, organizations move into driverless AI for more enterprise deployment.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mark. Okay, so everyone, if you have any other question, feel free to reach out to us. Mark and Ed have their emails showed on the screen. You can also reach out on LinkedIn. Thank you, Mark and Ed, for taking the time today, and thank you to everyone who joined us. We hope you enjoyed the presentation. Just stay tuned for upcoming events. We have a lot more coming, and have a great day.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much,
everyone.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.